YouTube, Happy New Year. Brian Phillips here. We've got the twin Otter. You haven't seen the unboxing yet, you haven't seen the build, and you haven't seen the crazy windy flight, which was filmed yesterday. So this is technically the third flight on this thing, and it is wonderful, capable, and very fun. And we are gonna go fly it right now for your viewing pleasure. This is gonna be the first part of the video. We're flying it on 3,000 milliamp pack. This is the turnkey heavy duty, 30 through 40C discharges right into the sweet spot of the recommended battery size. I believe I can probably fly with 2 of these in parallel, but we're not gonna do that right now. We're gonna fly regularly. I'll just show you how that's configured quickly. I've got that line drawn on the side there. You'll see that in the video. We have all the Expo settings at the end of the build series and radio setup, which is kind of mixed up this time, unfortunately, because the way the wing goes on this thing. So without further ado, we'll be outside taking off. All right, guys, so we don't normally taxi planes, but this plane just looks too gorgeous taxiing, so we're gonna do it. You wanna get in front of the camera crew, please? Mostly so you can see those gorgeous propellers. I love the markings. This thing does really good at ground handling. Very impressive performance. Okay, now we could probably take off either way, that's good. But we're gonna take off this way. I noticed that the takeoff flaps work very well. We're gonna do a nice scale takeoff for you. Get straight into the acrobatics. Going inside. No flaps there. Very capable. Not overpowered. It's not going to be overbearing like the bigger twin cargo 1.5. So you do have to fly this thing, meaning that you got to keep it moving. Give it some throttle for the turns and you'll be good. I'm into the takeoff flaps. I've noticed it really likes to fly with the takeoff flaps on. And look at the gorgeous angle of attack they've got this thing set to fly at. It's got that tail droop just like a real one would, just a little teeny bit of tail droop. We'll come back around. Full landing flaps. Do not fly dead stick with full landing flaps. This thing will eventually fall out of the sky. Got about 30% power dialed in, using some coordinated turns here. And yes, to answer your question, I did end up setting up a little bit of a rudder mix, an aileron to rudder mix on this plane. Not unlimited vertical, but if you carry a little bit of power into it, you can do almost unlimited vertical. Let's go around the trees here. And coming right back, we've got about a 3-mile-an-hour wind at our faces right now. Okay, full landing flaps deployed here. We'll come around for a slow pass right in front of our camera crew. In my build series video, the portion that will be the second half, I was discussing the possibility of increasing the flap deflection and whether it can be done. And yes, it can be done, but I don't know that it's a good idea. We're gonna try our first, either touch and go or landing. You'll notice the bounce there. I've noticed that this thing is so well balanced on the center of gravity and the wheels are so close to the center of gravity that what I've found is that it really does like to bounce a little bit if you're not careful. But you can just go in there for that beautiful high alpha, ultra scale looking landing, and I just love that. Okay, so takeoff flaps to it. Pull back on the stick just a little bit, and that thing just rolls gorgeously like it's a real thing. There's a tree out there, guys. That's why I keep doing that high pull. But you'll notice that tail droop that's customary of the twin Otter, which is just really cool. You want to go down on the bowl here next? Man, those colors are striking. I know at least one of my subscribers is going to complain about the blue color. I personally think it looks gorgeous. This thing does not like doing stall turns, I can tell you that. Full landing flaps here. When this thing stalls, it just goes all at once, okay? So just be ready for it. I wanted to show you that high alpha. One thing I'd recommend you do, and this is something that experienced RC pilots do, I don't always do it, is to do a stall test. And that is where you just basically fly it along and then you stall the plane. So let's try that. Let's watch the stall characteristics. Okay, so several mistakes high, no flaps. We're flying clean, just going slightly uphill, 30% throttle, cutting the throttle. Look at that stall, guys. See, it does tip. Of course, you the first thing you do when you recover from a stall is you get that nose down and you start flying the plane. You make the plane fly. That's what you do, is you add speed, you put the nose down. You do not pull up like this, or you will be not flying anymore. So let's do some upside down flight so the people can see it can be done. Okay, here we go. We're gonna try a pass here with the wind. Takeoff flaps engaged. We're gonna go on the inside this time, Megan. You'll notice it does fly pretty quick. But it's gorgeously scale, if you ask me. Okay, so there's our 6-minute timer. What we know from last night's flight, which you guys will be able to see, is that our voltages should be at or around in the 3.9 range, except that was with very high winds. Takeoff flaps dialed in there. Okay, we're gonna try to get a couple of landings here. Let's go into the bowl over here. Go over by the edge there, please, camera crew. Further back toward the house, please. Way back. There you go. We're gonna do some of this flying here for you because this area is just gorgeous. And it's perfect for seeing the colors. Those are full takeoff flaps. We're into the, the full landing flaps there. Now we're into the takeoff flaps. You're gonna notice a loss of elevator authority with the full takeoff flaps. Okay, here we go. Full landing flaps. Flaring touchdown. Great ground handling. Really like it. It's a little bit of a pain to adjust the nose gear, but it's a lot better than on some of the Horizon products. Throttle cut is on. We're at a minute 22 past our 6-minute timer. Remember, this is a very mature and abused 3000 milliamp pack. We are at cell 1 is at 3.8, cell 2 is at 3.81, cell 3 is at 3.92. Don't let the imbalance bother you. That's just the way this crappy thing works. You got strobes here, we got nav light here, we got nav light here, and strobe. One thing I noticed about the nav lights is that they are well hidden by the shape of the wing. Also, I had a bounce. Paint did well on that bounce, very well actually. So usually that stuff is gone if you have a nice little tip strike. Love the way this thing flies. Great plane. I think I'm going to be nice to it and be done with flying it. See this spot here, guys? You'll drag this on the ground almost certainly.
And then if you get a rough landing, just be prepared for these to splay out slightly. They can be bent back just like other Horizon planes. They look really gorgeous though. You see what happens here? That little spot there, I must have bounced up quite a bit and I cracked that, which is unfortunate, but to be perfectly honest with you, that was, if I recall, I was coming in and I hit the grass. That might have been an off-camera thing. I came in and did a grass landing. So, and it did fine. In fact, it took off. Let's show you a stall takeoff, which this is sort of cheating because the battery is pretty much already spent. But I just want you to see how long of a takeoff sequence we're talking about. So we're probably like 8 feet from that crack. Full landing flaps, no help from the wind. Remember, there's a 35% mix down on the elevator. So when you go to take off or land with landing flaps, your elevator deflection will go down. So make sure if you do low rates, which I don't do, make sure that your low rates are turned way down. So you want it to be basically high rate on at least the elevator. Okay, full throttle. See how it wants to pitch down pretty good when you get into that stall tendency? And guys, remember, my elevator, I have it set to the middle hole. Lots of throttle here on the turn so it doesn't fall. Full landing flaps engaged, keeping in the power. Flare and bounce. That's the thing you gotta know, is that this thing will stall. It's gonna fall out of the air. I cannot end on that. Okay. Full landing flaps for a nice slow pass right over my head. Okay. Take off flaps engaged for the turn, full throttle into the landing flaps, keeping the throttle engaged. A little wiggle on the rudder so I don't have to back taxi so much. So to answer your guys' questions about the stall characteristics on this plane, sure, you could probably force it into the air a little quicker. The other thing is I'm not running a really high C pack here, and I'm not running a brand new pack. So if you were to run a 2200 milliamp pack and you ran that all the way up against this front bulkhead, you would get a lot of punch and you'd have very little weight. So I think you'd be able to get off the ground a lot quicker. But I would be more akin to actually try to stuff 2 of these 3000s in here and see how it does. Granted, you're gonna have to slide them way back there where that bind wire is. Probably have to go all the way back like that and then maybe stuff the second one on top of it. And by the time you add your parallel adapters and things like that, you're gonna add a little bit of weight. So this thing's gonna be flying really heavy. And not sure how it's gonna like it, but the power to weight is gonna look super realistic and I think it'll look really good. So these, I don't think these things are called wheel pants, but they were factory installed, and you get a rough landing and it likes to release that little bit of CA that they put on there. So I will re-glue that thing to keep it in place. It's definitely gorgeous and I definitely don't want to lose that detail. So that's the first thing I'm going to do when we get inside. And other than that, guys, I hope you watch the unbox. I hope you enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it and you want to skip ahead, that's fine with me. There'll be a windy flight at the end. This thing is gorgeous. Check the links in the description below. Buy the stuff from the links. Help support the channel if you'd like to. But mostly come back for more. Thanks for watching, guys.
YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Some people have been complaining about the reviews lately, and believe me, I understand. But I've got something new and exciting for you. It did not come in a garbage bag. I had to buy this thing, which drives me nuts. One of these years, that will not be true. But this thing has got me really excited. The Twin Otter, 1.2 meter. It comes with floats and it comes with landing gear, which is pretty cool. And maybe we'll get fortunate enough to have some horrible weather that would allow us to fly on floats. But I kind of hope not. The weather today has been crazy windy, and we've already done a couple of unboxings today. So this is the third, and we saved the best for last. So without further ado, we're gonna open this thing up.
It's one of these boxes, guys. It's not the kind that slides out the end, and that is a gorgeous picture. It is a gorgeous picture. I'm excited for this plane. It is, in fact, counter-rotating props, and it is, in fact, 1.2 meters, which I already mentioned, and I'm excited for this plane. I like general aviation planes. I feel like the RC community is very underserved in the general aviation arena, although it's gotten a lot better in the last few years. Oh man, look at that gorgeous narrow wing cord. Oh, I hope it flies good. The flaps are not that big. I don't want to have to modify this thing. Man, when Horizon Hobby sells a plane, you pretty much know it's going to be good, because just look at the way it's packed. It's packed well. It's got heavy duty equipment, putting stuff together. Look at this. Everything is labeled. We've got extended power cords here. This is an EC3 connector, which, it's the only thing I don't like about the Horizon lineup is that they use EC3 connectors. Gross. Anyway, some of you guys are okay with that. Got these nice color-coded Christmas colors right here. That way you know which direction to install your propellers. They are counter-rotating, which is pretty sweet. We've got the scale lighting effects built in. We've got the inflatable bladder detail here, which is just sweet. So in real life, that would inflate and break the ice off the wings. And what else do we have in here? Looks like we're gonna be moving along pretty quick. Of course, these are fixed gear on this aircraft. They don't retract in real life. So we have fixed gear, and that is a little bit simpler on radio setup. Of course, we've got this nice heavy duty separation piece here. We've got a detailed manual, something that you don't get in some of the cheapy stuff. Looks like this has, oh yes, this is what I'm excited about mostly here. Counter rotating beautiful props, guys. I can't resist. We're gonna get these out first. We got spinners in there too, but look at this. These things look gorgeous. They're T7056CR. So counter rotating. That is awesome. I don't know which one goes where, but we'll find that in the manual, I'm sure. And then it does come with the spinners, very detailed. I always like these spinners from Horizon. They're always well built. The only problem is sometimes the plastic looks a little bit cheap. If you get a more opaque color, they always look better. So, and forgive the camera crew, she's been struggling through a cold or whatever it is she's got, and it's been awesome for all vacation break.
Sorry.
Yeah. So we've got this manual. This should be in actually English and in other languages too. We aren't going to read it, but we're just going to get it unpacked now. Obviously, this will be an unboxing. You probably have already seen the Maiden flight, because that's what we've been doing now with our format. On the bigger unboxings, we like to show the people the flight right away to keep your attention, and then you can stick around for the unboxing. Radio setup will come at the end. And if you haven't already figured this out, there'll be timestamps that tell you where to do things or where to watch what you want to watch. These manuals are really good. They show you exactly where to set everything. My recommendation is always to set it very close or exactly to the factory setup. I have a DX18, so I'm going to go down to this area and use this when I'm setting things up. Look, a clearly marked CG. That's handy. Oh, it didn't rip. Amazing. So the center of gravity is marked at 45 millimeters, plus or minus 5 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing. And on this particular wing, it's going to be easy to find because it's not, it's just about as straight as you can get, which is awesome. So I'm excited to put this one together. We're going to keep unboxing now that we've kind of broke into that a little bit. We'll get into much more detailed setup later. If you guys haven't seen any of my videos before, the Horizon Hobby products always take the longest because I go through the entire setup from start to finish. And this stuff is going to fall, so I'm going to be a little bit careful how I pull this out of the bag. Got these aren't wheel pants, but those look like they're really springy, but still strong. I like that a lot. The nose gear looked a little bit hokey in the pictures, maybe a little bit bigger than I would like to see. but I can certainly tolerate that if that's what it takes to get it flying and to stay together. Looks like we have a bind plug here. These are the legs for the floats. The legs for the floats are colored blue. Got a bunch of little hardware pieces. Got a big screw here that's going to hold the wing onto the main part of the fuselage. Oh no! We're going to pause it and pick all that stuff up. So as you guys know, we don't do a lot of editing on these videos. We just kind of show it to you as it is, but we might occasionally pause it while you've got to, you know, deal with personal issues or bathroom breaks, or if you got kids needing help or whatever it is. But like that, I just ripped the bag and threw everything around, and nobody likes to be on camera when they rip their sack. It's just not comfortable. So a lot of pieces for the landing gear, assemblies. I guess in our case, it's going to be landing gear initially, and then we'll see if we get an opportunity at floats. I'm not disappointed that this came with floats, because the floats that Horizon make are really, they're really well built. But my only issue with it is that of all the planes that could come with floats, this is probably one that I'm not going to use floats on. But look at that. That is pretty cool. It comes with a rudder, okay? So there's a linkage that's taped down inside of this container. This linkage, this is how you hook that up. And so you use your steerable nose gear to run that, which is really nice, because as soon as you get floats on a plane and you don't have any way to turn the plane on the water, it is very scary to land a plane, because you will immediately lose control. We'll just lay these off to the side for the moment. Like I said, we're going to start with regular landing gear, and if we get an opportunity, then we'll go ahead and look how they pack this, guys. Horizontal stabilizer elevator. Very high quality. Doesn't look like much, but if you look closer, there's carbon fiber in there, which is nice. Very nice detailed lines. Very smooth finish. I like the way this looks. I like the way it feels. Of course, these things are going to go in there here shortly, and that's going to be your extra vertical stabilizers there. Very high quality hinge material. Let's see if we can see how they do that. Can't see. It doesn't look like it's embedded plastic fingers or anything like that. It's just going to be a foam joint there. And then, of course, let's pop out the main fuselage, which just looks really gorgeous. In a big, thick high mill plastic. So lots of protection just from the plastic bag in and of itself. Used to be back in the day, you would get something like this, and you would be lucky if this thing wasn't essentially glued to the foam, because something got glued. Man, that blue is gorgeous. Still got a lot of dimpling on here. That's nothing out of the ordinary for Horizon products. The white parts are just really smooth. Windows look a little bit hokey if you ask me, but I think this plane is going to be gorgeous. AS3X built in. It looks like it's AR636B, so it's going to be Safe Select, which we already know that from looking at the box. AS3X meaning the stabilization, and then Safe Select, which is going to allow you to do auto leveling with the basis of AS3X, and that is switchable if you have the correct configuration on your radio, and your radio system does have to have an extra channel. I believe it's channel 7 or above to control that. Unless you want to share it with another control. So that's everything. There's nothing in the bottom of this box, so we'll pause it, we'll get things spread out neatly, and we'll come right back. Okay. All right, guys, so we're back. We've got everything spread out nicely. For this, we're going to use the DX18, obviously. But if you had a jumper, this will run DSMX or DSM2. So you should be able to do that if you don't have a DX18, or if you have one that's insufficient, not enough channels. This thing costs about 1/4 as much as this. This is superior by a long shot, but it's a lot more money. This is going to take a lot more effort to set up, so I am not going to go through the setup process there, but it can be done, just so you know. So without that, we'll go ahead and come back to what we're using for battery. I'm going to use this Turnigy 3000 milliamp hour or 3 amp hour. Pack is 3340C discharge. It does have an XT60 on it, which is not going to be the same style of plug that this plane has.
but I have adapters, and if I don't have the right adapter, I'll either switch the connector on the plane or I'll build a new adapter. These EC5s work with the IC3s, I think they call them, but either way, it's their new smart battery, whatever they call it. So we're gonna go with this for now, and then I'll be using a voltage alarm just to keep my voltage, to keep track of it, and then I can set my timers accordingly. But we are gonna be doing the full radio setup at the end, but before we can do that, we have to build the plane, so we're gonna get into that right now. Make sure that you're following whatever stupid government rules that they came up with in the last 5 minutes. Right now, they're proposing some rules that is gonna require radio controlled airplanes to basically have transponders, which is completely ridiculous. So look into it, get a hold of your legislators, let people know that you think it's out of line, that the FAA has this much power, for one thing. But anyway, I'm not gonna go into that here because this plane is awesome, and even if they put that stuff into effect, we're gonna have several years to respond to it to a certain extent. But it could be really bad. So we'll talk about that in another video. For now, we're gonna get this beauty built, and we're gonna enjoy the heck out of it before the government tries to steal it out of my hands. So, we've got all the pieces laid out here. The floats are going to be assembled at the very end. We are not planning on flying on floats right away, so I'm not going to make that a primary focus. But my goals are to get this thing assembled first, so we're going to jump right in. Looks like on page 4 of the manual, the Twin Otter 1.2, tells you how to get the landing gear installed. It seems a little bit strange to start with landing gear, but I guess that's what they're saying, so we're going to start there. The other thing is, I haven't figured out, and I looked through the entire manual trying to figure out if there was some magical way to take this lid off. Mine had some glue, guys, look at this. There's glue that was on there. That's why I couldn't get the lid off. So I actually just got that. You just lift straight up and it pivots out. So not sure why that was so hard, except that I had glue on mine. So that being said, there is a plug down here that takes you back to the bind plug, because obviously when you're all said and done with the assembly, you're going to have access blocked off to this point. And so they have included graciously this safe select / binding plug, okay? So they've also included this too, which is nice. Remove plug prior to initiating transmitter bind, which is pretty cool. We'll go through that whole process so you don't have to do any guesswork. This manual, I'm trying to figure out where to start and where to end. And if anything, Horizon does some of the best manuals in the industry, but even for me, it's hard. I don't know. I wish they would just go step by step and just go with it instead of this like jumping all over the place. It drives me crazy. So anyway, Horizon, if you're listening, which I'm 100% sure you're not, please fix that. Just step 1, step 2, step 3. Just do it. It's easier for everybody involved. So that being said, we're going to get in here and just show you also the landing gear mounts here. This is where the floats are going to go if you end up doing the floats. Okay, so you can see where it clamps down. They're going to pass through the fuse here. And then there's also this little back piece, which is going to jump into step 1. You have to take this piece off. That's going to cover up the access to installing the main landing gear. So I did notice in here there's some tips from Horizon or whoever put together this manual. And the tips are to apply CA to the landing gear strut covers to hold them in place. And I thought to myself, why would I want to use CA on a glueless installation? And I thought to myself, I'm not going to do that. Hopefully I don't lose them. But if I do, I'll just give them a phone call. Here's the thing, guys. I don't want to glue together a bolt together plane, because when I have to take it apart, then the glue is still stuck. Which is ironic, because if you look at the back of this manual, they're going to talk about motor maintenance as though you're going to get in there and do maintenance. Well, let me tell you something. If you have to maintain this motor, you're tearing this thing apart. You're going to ruin the finish. You're going to ruin the decals. You're never going to get it back exactly right. You're going to be out here painting. It's going to be a huge pain in the neck. And again, Horizon, if you're listening, which I'm not sure you are, maybe if you made them accessible with screws, we could do maintenance. So anyway, just a thought. Okay, so we're inaccessible. We got a little plywood place here. It looks like it could be balsa, but I'm pretty sure it's plywood. And so that's going to receive the hardware. I'm noticing that this is wanting to tip, so we're going to find something right now, and we're going to set it up on some pillows or something like that. Okay. So we've got the landing gear here. You remember how I mentioned I was confused about this? Well, part of the reason I'm confused is because it starts on page 4. They never tell you to install the wing, okay? Which is not like a minor detail, because
you know, you have to hook up everything that's hooked up from the wing, which is the virtually half the plane, okay? They don't even mention that in the manual. They just jump straight into landing gear. Well, that's not an issue, except that the landing gear comes out here and struts in. So I believe you have to start with the wing. So I guess we're gonna start with the wing, guys. So the first step is start with the wing. So now what we've got to do is we have to take this rubber band off. I think the camera crew is gonna resituate themselves. Okay, couple quick notes about diversity antennas. Diversity antennas mean that there's one antenna and a second antenna. Sometimes there's more than two, but generally it's just two. If you have a satellite, then there'd be two on each of the satellites that you install. And yes, you can run multiple satellites, but in this case, we're gonna be running just these two antennas, okay? So the idea is one's going this way is what factory has done, which they've kinked it just about. That needs to not be kinked. This is a coaxial cable, so there's actually a conductor outside and a conductor on the inside. So if you kink it, you'll break potentially one of them. So you need to be a little bit gentle with them. And this one is gonna basically go the opposite direction. So you can do that however you want, but just be mindful that you've only got a sleeve around this little portion. So if you catch this wire, then as you move the steerable nose gear, which is gonna be the rudder, then you're gonna cause problems for yourself. Okay, so just be mindful of that. The other thing I'm noticing is look at how this is installed. This thing is installed out of square. Okay, so you'll notice that it's not installed square. I'm exaggerating the angle. This thing should be dead center square on the aircraft, but it's not. It's mounted out of square. If my plane flies sideways, then that will be one thing I can think of. However, it shouldn't be of great consequence because it's only going to be relative to the yaw. So the yaw axis is going to be the most impacted, but then again, the roll axis is also impacted. So that is a little bit more than irritating right now because that needs to be square. So I'm not sure why they did that. They even speak to that in the manual. Okay, so these are the lights evidently. You can see because there's just two wires that come out. I always check these things to make sure they're plugged in. Looks like they just daisy chained that on channel 6, which is a little bit strange. And then this says LED. Yeah, so that makes sense. So when we plug this all in, we're gonna plug the LEDs into that. Okay, so I've got this rubber band undone. So we're gonna go ahead and just jockey these wires out here. Okay, so it says LED. Okay, so that's really obviously going to the LED linkage. We're gonna see how we can do this. Now remember, this is all gonna seed in here. So we gotta kind of try to be a little bit creative about the way we do this. Obviously you don't want the props on at this point, so I'm glad I didn't follow the instructions. The instructions talk about doing the props next. So that would have been kind of a bear cat because you'd have nowhere to lay this stuff. So black to black, red to red, white to white. They are keyed, so they won't go wrong unless you really, really, really force it. And then you can actually get these little Futaba style connectors to go together like that. So this is the flaps. So now the flaps, you get to try to magically figure out where to plug that in. So the way you do magic is you look in the manual. So hopefully this says where it plugs in. Okay, so it's talking about this receiver. Okay, of course they don't mention it anywhere there. Looks like the flap system, they're assigning it to switch D. That's probably on channel 5, guys, but I don't know that for a fact. Let's see what else we've got here. Maybe we can just do process of elimination here. So flaps, and then we have ailerons. Now ailerons should be pretty straightforward. Look at this. That's interesting. So instead of a Y cable, they just built them together. That's interesting. So that black wire needs to go down. I'm assuming that's probably on channel 2. Excuse me, that's channel 1. This is channel 2. But again, I don't know, so we're going to have to test this before we get everything put together. Sorry, I'm going to be blocking your visibility, camera crew. That is my battery chiming at me. I got 4 of those 3,000 milliamp packs. I got those things, the vintages, back when I got my, what is that plane I got? The Cirrus SR22T. Love that plane, really good plane. Okay, so the flaps are gonna probably be, it looks like channel 4 is full and then 5 is open, so I'm assuming that's where we're gonna go to is channel 5. Now we can always go through and figure it out. We can also, remember the black needs to go down, so I almost did that backward. On these receivers, it is still keyed on the entrance for the plug, but you can actually get them in wrong, so just be aware of it. Okay, so I'm just going to use my fingernail to follow that in. See this, how they're all cockeyed and cattywampus? When I'm all said and done, I'll have to do a little something about that, maybe a little glue or something. Okay, then we have the ESC. So the ESC is going to be on channel 1. That makes sense. So all I'm doing here is I'm just kind of grabbing these wires and kind of kinking it at a 90. Okay, so that way it doesn't damage the wiring when I get in here and really rail on it to make the connection. These identifier tags are kind of like right in the way of where you need to work. But it is very nice to have the identifiers. So don't hear that wrong, guys. I'm glad that they're on there because it does make it quite a bit easier than just your standard plug and fly operation. Although if you're plugging this many cables in, you might as well call it a plug and fly. Let's just be honest. So all the wires are landed. Now would be a good time to test to make sure things are going to work. So I'm not going to get really detailed, but I'm just going to go ahead and set up a regular acro model just so we can test this, okay? Because there's no props on, we don't have to worry about that. And we can see what direction everything's going to go. So we're going to power on the receiver. I use a throttle cut up here on switch H. Okay, so we have a brand new acro model. I'm going to click. I'm going to go down to system setup. I'm going to click yes. Model select. I'm going to go down to the bottom, add new model. In my case, I'm just using model 66 because I used it to set up the 720. It didn't end up doing a DSM receiver in that. So we're going to go to aircraft type. Model type, we're going to select airplane. It's going to be reset. That means make sure that you're going to be totally reset. We can go ahead and name this if we want, but we're not going to do that yet. We're just going to make sure we have the right aircraft type, which I believe you just set this up as a standard acro. So that's where you go to page 6. One aileron, one flap is the wing type. Okay, so we can go to normal, click, and then put it to one aileron, one flap. And that means one servo control channel and then one flap control channel. And then the tail is standard. And then it looks like switch A is going to be gear and switch D is going to be flap. Now D, they like using D. I hate using D for flaps. I use B 100% of the time and I use A for gear. If I don't have gear and I have safe instead, then I'll use safe up here because I can get to those as I'm flying and it works well for me. But if you're a pincer style flyer, then you can use your middle finger or your ring finger to control those. I just have a hard time getting to D because I have to take my fingers off of the yaw control and the throttle control. I don't like that. So anyway, so we're gonna go to next. You can change this picture if you want to whatever you want. In this case, I'm just gonna scroll through real quick and see if there's anything. Hey, that looks pretty good. And then I'm gonna go back to the main menu. Throttle cut is on, but I don't have it set up. So we'll do that real quick. I'm gonna set that to switch H. They say something interesting. Lower the throttle and throttle trim to -112 or less for the ESCs to arm. I get nervous about that, so I'm gonna set it to -100 and we'll see how it goes without props installed. I've been burned by this setting before, okay? So I'm not gonna explain it now, it's just a waste of time, but just trust me on this, okay? I'm gonna scroll over here. You can see throttle is down, and then when I unlock it, it goes live, okay? I always keep it this way because if I'm storing this, it's more likely to get bumped into this position than it is to get bumped into that position, okay? So safer that way. Throttle cut is one of the few safety features that I really, really firmly believe in this model aviation stuff. Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and set up the timer as well right now while we're on it. The timer they recommend, do they recommend a timer on this?
I didn't see one actually.
I didn't either, and that's part of the problem is that these Horizon planes, they have so many different things they recommend and suggest, but then they kind of lay it out a little bit different. This is one of the things that they do a good job on. They do this really well and they do this really well. But everything else, you're searching and going back and forth. If you watch my other unboxings, it's always exactly the same way, and they're always laid out just slightly different. Okay, so it doesn't say how long. 6 minutes initially. Okay, so they're suggesting 6 minutes, but they're also suggesting a battery range of 2200 to 3200. Okay, so if it's a third bigger, then 6 minutes is probably a safe starting point. I can tell you right now, if you have a fresh, high quality 3000 milliamp pack, you're gonna be flying a lot longer than 6 minutes. But I'm just gonna set it to 6 minutes. I'm gonna set it to 1 out, active with tone and vibrate. That means that as soon as I move my stick out, it's gonna start the clock, and as soon as I put my stick down, it keeps running. If you don't activate the 1 out, then it's just gonna run until your stick is below a certain percentage, and then it's gonna stop counting as though you're flying a glider or something like that. When this goes off, it's gonna tone and vibrate, so I'll feel it. I'll have a very positive feedback. I can definitely tell it's happened, and then it will chime every 1 minute. It's gonna beep. And that way you know how many minutes you're over. So anyway, we can clear that with the clear button too. So now that we have that done, I have my primary safety feature and my secondary safety feature ready to go. Those are things I don't negotiate on. I just do it all the time. It's a creature of habit thing. I'm gonna go ahead and use my little adapter here. This is an XT60, and then this is an EC3. They said something about an IC3 connection. I don't have an IC3 on mine. Mine has an EC3. I don't really care what it is, as long as they tell me the right stuff. But online, I was led to believe it was gonna be IC something. Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna turn off my radio, something that's not customary, but only because we're binding. I wanna bind with Safe Select. So because of the nature of Safe Select, we have to go back to this page, and we're just gonna walk through this, guys. The bind plug comes with the plane. It's right here. All this does is it shorts ground. It shorts ground. See how it's on the outside too, wires? Mm-hmm. So it shorts ground to signal, not power to signal, ground to signal, okay? It's important. So it ties it low is what we call that. Okay, so you see this? Safe Select, remove plug prior to initiating. So what I'm gonna recommend you do instead is just look at the instructions. So safe on, Safe Select binding sequence, and then safe off, Safe Select binding sequence, okay? So you do not have to have Safe Select on this model aircraft. I am gonna turn it on, even though I don't need safe. I'll show you how it works, and I'll use it for a few seconds in flight and lift up the controller, let you watch it with hands-free. But really, the easiest thing to do is you basically, normally when you're binding a plug, or when you're binding a plane, you put in your bind plug. In this case, we have the nice extension cord. I wanna have this nice flat and level to simulate the home position so that all the gyros and everything initiates properly. So I'm just gonna lean it up against this kitchen sink thing here, the faucet. And then I'm gonna have my battery prepared and ready to plug in, and we'll just do this over here. Okay, so we're ready for that. Now, camera crew, this is gonna be challenging.
Okay.
So I can't have this on, or I can be on in the bind mode. And then it's just, I've never had good luck with that. I prefer to have power off and then turn it on. So that's what we're gonna do when we're ready. First, we've got the wire plugged in for the bind plug. Then we're gonna power it up, and then we're going to remove the bind plug before we do that process. That's how you turn on Safe Select. Okay, ready? Powering it up. Okay, look at this flashy lights. See the flashy lights right there? Now, look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pull this out. Now I'm gonna press and hold. Up you go. Fail-safe conditions are all true. Binding. Bind failed. You wanna know why? I'm too close. Okay. Turned off my transmitter. Unplugging the battery. Reinstalling the bind plug. You have to be so far away, otherwise there's too much crosstalk and reverberation in the radio frequencies or whatever it is. So, powering it up. Listening for the beeps, looking for the flashy light on the AR636. Pulling out this plug, that's gonna give us binding Safe Select. Now we're gonna walk away from it. You're gonna walk away from it with me. We're gonna turn this on while holding the bind plug. Fail-safe conditions are all true. I want all my switches where I want them. Now listen for the dance. Once it binds, bind failed again. Interesting. Okay. Now we have to figure out why it's not binding. So I'm gonna play with this for just a second and we'll come right back. All right guys, so we did everything right that we can see. So we switched batteries. Sometimes these things get a little bit picky about having a fully charged battery. So plugging this in, the bind plug is inserted. We are making sure we're 100% true and level, which we are. We're taking the bind plug out. Now we're gonna take our DX18 several steps away. We're gonna press and hold, and then we're gonna turn it on. We're gonna watch and listen. Binding. DSMX, 22 milliseconds. Telemetry.
Sure.
Watch for the dance. Hear the dance. Okay, so now come on over, guys. So the next thing you'll notice is that the flaps are not in the right position. That's because we have an activated flap mode. So flap system, we're gonna uninhibit it. We're gonna set it to B. That's what I use. You can use whatever you want. Let's look at the manual real quick. We also need to set our safe select. But let's get the flaps working so we know that all the controls are connected right. Looks like they want gear, channel A, and flaps on channel. So gear is on channel 5, flaps are on channel 6. Flap mode is -100 and +100 with a 2. Okay, so we want a 2-second delay. I'm gonna scroll in 2 seconds. Sorry, I'm jumping around here really bad, guys. So this one's gonna be -100. Okay, and then +100. So the neutral position will be right in the middle. I like when they do it this way because you're not wasting throw on your servo. And then they want, for the landing setting, they want a 35% elevator tie. Goodness gracious, that's crazy. 25. And this is where you can really get a lot of your efforts saved. Make sure there's not a reverse. Doesn't say to reverse anything. That's good. That means it's an easier one. Okay, so now when I flip the switch, okay, so now you'll notice that's not changing, but I can hear something else changing. So the elevator shaft is moving. See that in and out? The rudder's moving, so that's correct. This is correct. That's correct. Why are the flaps not moving?
So do you have your gear and your flaps?
Oh, the elevator's moving. That's why we're hearing that, is the 25% deflection. Maybe I need to do an assignment to switch B. Okay, so we can go back down to system setup. We can disconnect the radio frequency, which is why this orange light disappears. We can go down to channel assign. Looks like flaps are on, currently on channel 6. Is that where we plugged it in? I don't think we did,
I don't remember if we had 5 or 6.
Oh, channel 6 is plugged into something else though. Channel 6 is plugged in to, no, it looks like flaps are plugged into 5. So, all right, so how about we just do this? Oops, not aux 5, sorry. I can inhibit that, inhibit this, that'll give us the choice for gear. Okay, let's try this. I'll have to fiddle with that to get it right back. Okay, cam alive. Because I'm not actually doing anything. See, when I move over here to monitor, that's moving the gear up and down. And that's moving the elevator tie, but you see nothing else is changing. So auxiliary 1, interesting. System setup. Yes, sorry guys, this is a little bit confusing, I know, but channel assign, so we're going to change this back to gear. Excuse me, we're going to change this to aux 1 actually. So we'll go gear, aux 1. See, it goes to aux 2 like that. That's weird. Okay. So we're on this switch, which is wrong. And then this is doing something else. So So if I get a flap system, this is assigned to switch B. So when I go to monitor mode, you can see the tie, but it's not making any other impact on it. See how it says auxiliary 2, auxiliary 2, auxiliary 3, auxiliary 4, auxiliary 5? That's why I'm kind of confused, guys. Because look, the gear works, but auxiliary 1 should be here. We should be able to mess with that. So I'm going to go back into system setup. Yes. I'm going to go to channel assign. I'm going to inhibit that. Throttle, aileron, elevator, gear, auxiliary 2. Why does it go to auxiliary 2? I want auxiliary 1. There we go, flap. Oh my goodness, that was so annoying. So now this should, hypothetically, flaps are changing, but there's no impact. It's still tied onto this channel. So I'm going to show you the other way to do this. System setup, yes. Channel assign, you can go to next. See this? Gear is tied to A. I don't really want that to tell me where it's tied. I think I can set that to NA. I'll just switch that. And then aux 1, I'm just going to inhibit that and just walk back out. Nope. Nope. Okay, we're going to pause it. We'll come right back. This is frustrating, but it's happened to me more than once. Okay, guys, so we just went into the channel input configuration and switched gear to B because gear, channel A, previously had been controlling the flaps. I don't know why this gets left out of stuff like this. Partly because I am setting it up a little bit different, but I've not run into this problem in a long time. So it's under port assignments, and then you come down like this and you go to next, okay? So now B is tied to that. So you can see it's working. Okay, so now when I walk over to this, nothing happens with that. But you see gear and flaps are both operating. And plus we don't have the delay in deployment. So I gotta figure out which one I flipped around, and we'll come right back and show you how to fix it. All right, folks, so I figured it out. I've run into this a couple of different times on 2 or 3 different models. You'll notice that everything is working now. And it was a pretty easy solution, but it's just frustrating to have to search through and find it. And it's all just based on the way that in the DX18, you have a port assignment and then you have a channel assignment, which to me, it seems counterintuitive because they're kind of the same thing. So it's just different nomenclature to call out what that performance of that particular switch is going to do. So I've always thought that was a little bit confusing, but it's still a lot better than jumper. Okay, so go down to system setup, disconnect the RF, scroll down to your channel assign. In my case, I needed to flip my flaps and gear because the functions that I was tying to deviated from what the functions that were on this computerized transmitter setup. And that's where we ran into problems. I did have this, whoops, dang it, sorry guys. I did have this correct. So my gear is assigned to switch B, okay? Which is a little bit weird because then flap mode can be called out to operate on switch B as it would normally be called out, okay? So you'll see it says switch B. We have our 2-second deployment. You can see the elevator servo working in here. It's right, see how it says elevator and then it says rudder? See, there's the rudder. There's the elevator. Now watch it move. See the correction factor? Okay, so everything is working now. We know that all the controls are plugged in correctly. And incidentally, we guessed right on plugs. That was part of the reason why we were a little bit confused. We thought we were kind of doubting ourselves at the beginning there, is because even though they're labeled, it's kind of hard to tell where they're supposed to go still. Even with the labels, you don't know what port goes to what. And some of the Horizon models, they show exactly where to plug everything in. And for whatever reason, this one just doesn't make it very clear. The gear channel controls the cargo door.
Cargo door?
Where the heck is the cargo door? Okay.
It's a mystery.
So I think what's going on here is it's almost like, I think they used the exact nomenclature out of the twin the 1.5 meter twin cargo plane. And that's part of the reason why I ran into problems here. So anyway, again, sorry for Horizon. This thing is, it's gonna be a sweet plane, but you just gotta work through some of these things. So in this case, we worked through it. Safe select should be working, but we have to do an assignment still. So we might as well do the assignment, but it's gonna be a lot easier to see later when we can see when things are responding in the correct orientation on the plane. Now that we've established all the plugs are correct, we should be able to go ahead and de-energize the plane and get things put away. I'm gonna get a hot glue gun and we're gonna hot glue this strip of plugs inside of here so we don't have them come dislodged during flight, and it's gonna be covered up and closed in, so we don't wanna do that later. I have a hot glue gun here. It's gotten hot while we waited. And basically what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna come in here and just glue right here and just stitch these things together so that there's less chance of anything coming undone. This is a very easy step. Yes, you can do it lighter, and yes, you can do different things. I do it because it's easy and it's very easily removable. So if I ever have to get in here and do maintenance, then I can do it quickly. And yes, I know there's always people that give me some friendly suggestions. I don't ever have a problem with suggestions, guys. But let's just be honest, everybody kind of has their way of doing things. Okay, see this? Look. That took me like 5 seconds to do. Now I've got something that's quickly removable. It didn't cost me hardly anything. Glue sticks are practically free. They just give them out at Walmart.
Well, not quite.
That was a joke. Don't try it. Okay, so now that those are glued together, I'm still, to be honest, guys, I'm not sure where I want to put this antenna, but I can tell you right now I'm nervous about it because this one antenna that's down here goes laterally with the length of the plane. And so I want this one to go horizontally. So I think what I might do, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I wanna get them as far away from each other as possible without kinking the line. So I'm gonna get a clear piece of tape, and the clear piece of tape is just gonna stick on top of the antenna. So look, this is not rocket science here, but it is kind of rocket science. This is radio frequency science. So I'm gonna take and stick this down onto the foam. Now the foam is easily penetrated by RF. Okay, so you see what I did there? Again, one of these things that you would think would be easy enough for the factory to do, but they give us the privilege of doing it for them. That's a double-edged sword, I realize, because then you know it's done right. But there's times when I just kind of don't want to do it myself, like 100% of the time.
Whatever.
So you see what I've done? I've wrapped this cable and I've got this bundled up nicely. We are going to have to manage these cables a little bit. What would be preferred is if I could use something like a rubber band, but I don't think the rubber band is going to be practical enough. We're going to have to use a zip tie. A twist tie would also work nicely. To be perfectly honest, it worked really nice. But a twisty tie, sometimes I run into problems where they'll actually cut the wires. If you twist them up over time, just get to wearing and tearing. So I want to take and control this wire. Sorry, camera crew, I know this is kind of like an awkward one. It's hard to see what I'm seeing at the same time. So I'm just going to try this. Cable management's always a tricky thing because you don't want to manage it so much that you can't get wires out later when you need to change something or fix a strip of LEDs or whatever it is you happen to be doing in there. But you do need to be a little bit mindful of this stuff because if you just let everything go every direction, what's going to happen is you're going to interfere with one of your control surfaces because as you can see, the factory installed LEDs are already wanting to do that. So I'm going to take and stuff this down next to the elevator servo. Everything is really slick on these because the mold release gets all over everything. But you see what I just did there? It was super easy. And all that's going to do is it's basically going to mechanically prevent these things from tying up into each other, okay? And we're gonna just take just a little teeny tiny dab of glue to hold that down in place. And it doesn't even need to be very much, it's just a little bit. And that's just going to keep that from slipping. And then when you're flipping this plane upside down and backward and all over the place in the sky, then it's going to protect it from coming undone easily. Same thing here, probably wise to hold that down because it could easily become entangled in the rudder. Keep in mind the rudder itself is the worst because there's two linkages that go into that control. So when you do get bound up with that, you could actually prevent the whole surface from moving, which typically if you have a rudder that gets locked up, if it gets locked up, it's going to get locked up at the absolute worst time when you really need it, or you're depending on it to make some sort of a control turn, like on water, for instance. Okay, so look at the way I've got those wires controlled, guys. See how they're going to be controlled? They're pointing to the front of the aircraft, and then make sure you pass your power wire through. And then this rocks in, just like this. Look from the back. And then that seats down in. So it's actually a really clean install, to be honest. I've done a lot worse. They just forgot to mention it in the manual, which, honestly, if I didn't have the manual, I could do this stuff without the manual. But since there is a manual, I assume there's a reason for it. See, guys, look, I had to figure that out all on my own. It's a miracle.
How did we do it?
And I cannot fathom having to take a plane like this apart, going to the flying field. My camera crew is shaking their head like it would be incredibly huge pain in the butt.
Yes.
But I know there's a lot of you guys that, you know, you got like a really small car or you have to go a long ways. Oh, that is so gorgeous. Oh man, I can't wait to see this thing fly. Okay, so that being all understood, we've got that stuff ready to plop inside the front. We're gonna plop this back on the canopy. My camera crew is gonna reposition so she can actually see what's going on. So we've got the screw in here, verifying that's all intact. Now I can get back to step one.
Step one.
So I had hoped to have a nice designation of radio setup, and I apologize, guys. Normally I have a better chance of doing that, but today it just kind of was handed to us. So we're gonna drop this in now. You can see very clearly that there are holes that are pre-drilled for us, and there's one giant sack of screws. I love that, Horizon, good job. Don't give me 14 different types of screws, that just drives me nuts. And do you remember when we built the Carbon Z Cub? The Carbon Z Cub had 4 trillion different types of screws.
Yes.
You remember I had to make my own tool to put together the landing gear?
Not correctly labeled packaging.
Well, I mean, you could figure it out if you were, you know, really, really thinking about it. Okay, so that's nice, heavy-duty, robust landing gear. I love the way they bended stuff. Bended.
Good word.
I'm gonna think about that.
You should.
So, I'm gonna use the Chinese screwdriver. I had somebody the other day commenting on my Flight Test screwdrivers. Flight Test offers some screwdrivers for their home build kits. Awesome screwdrivers. It's like the only screwdriver I can use to take Horizon nose cones off of the Carbon Z Cub. And I don't know why that is, it just happens to be true. The hex drive, it's just the perfect size. The Allen screw size, there's something about it. It's like a between size. So these are going in very nicely, very strong hold. However, when you have a rough landing and you break this, it's gonna be catastrophic and you're gonna have to replace a piece that bridges through the plane. So you're gonna wanna be gentle on your landings so that you don't break this board. Guys, I wanna show you something else. See what else I'm running into here is that these things rock now. So just be aware, once you get that first one in there, they're gonna rock. So as you tighten them, just like if you were tightening the lug nuts on your wheels, on your aluminum wheels, you're gonna wanna start with one side, don't tighten it all the way down and just go back and forth. Otherwise you may have a tendency of actually breaking this piece of wood, and that would be a travesty. It would be a complete travesty. So we're gonna get these tightened. And then the next step, I believe, is going to be putting that cover back on, but I'm not 100% sure. Looks like we didn't have to do that step, so we don't have to worry about the dab of CA. Please note that these Chinese screwdrivers are really nice for this. I got a non-Chinese, well, I mean, it's made in Mexico, I think, this Craftsman style. This is a Phillips 0 size screwdriver. Ironically enough, you would think since it's a purchased one, it would work better. You hear it spinning and slipping. These Chinese ones are actually pretty good. So I find myself going to this. This is from like an FMS kit maybe. It might be from FMS, it might be from the other variety. I'm not sure which one it came with.
It's been around a while.
It's been, well, no, we got like 10 of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so as I was telling you, I've rotated. Now I'm getting to the point where I'm torquing them down so that I hopefully don't break the wood, and instead I depress the landing gear into the wood. All right, so this is paused. The next thing we've got to do is we've got to put these straps on that go out to the wings. In terms of quality, they're flexible, but I'm not real impressed with the mold release on this. That's a little bit out of character. So you slip that through and then this clips in right like here. Man, that's pretty hard to clip. So that's both good and bad because you have to somehow support behind it. So I'm putting my hand out as much as I can so that when I snap. Now, good luck taking that off when you take the swing off. I don't think it's possible. So now we can put this belly guard back on. Some of these models, incidentally, have really come a long way. In just a short time I've been doing this, 5 years I've been flying, right? Mm-hmm. A little over 5 years. And when I first started, man, it is a very different environment. These things are so much better built, and they're lighter, but they're stronger, and to be honest, they're a lot cooler. Some of them were really cool back then too. And there's always been good ARFs and things like that, but it's very expensive. So these bind and fly airplanes have been just phenomenal. Okay, so now the next step is supposedly to put the propellers on. Why are we not putting the nose gear on? What is wrong with this manual? It's like they missed a bunch of pages. It goes from page 4 to page 5.
There's no nose gear installation directions either.
So I guess we're going to go ahead and try to figure this out. I'm sure it's really complicated and I won't be able to get it. There's a flat spot here, okay? There's a flat spot on each side, so it's keyed. And then we're going to slip it in there. And it looks like they got a Phillips screwdriver. So you could do this presumably either way. I'm assuming that there's kind of like a proper way, but I'm just going to do... Ooh, that's a big screw too. Very strange that they would choose to use a Phillips screw in this application. I don't really care, but it's just a little weird. If you guys wanted to, I just thought of something cool. So you could take that screw out and you could just let this idle and you could set up differential thrust. And then when you're on the ground, you could ground handle with your differential thrust, which would be sweet. So anyway, of course, we're not going to do that right now. We want to see this thing fly stock. Noticing also that it's not quite square is not a big deal, but it's truthfully not square yet. So now the continued, model assembly continued. So we're going to do this now. One thing that was very critical in this installation is right here. And this is very critical because you won't know which way they go unless they tell you, and it's a lot easier for them to tell us than for us to figure out. Looking from the front of the plane, they're going to cut in toward the fuselage, okay? See that? They're going to cut in toward the fuselage. So it looks like, I'm just going to flip the plane upright. Now that I've got landing gear on it, I can stick that like that so it looks just like the picture. There is actually a part number somewhere on there. This says Rex. That must be the brand.
Right here. This one says, right by my nail, the CR. So this would be that one.
That's the CR, and this is the C. So counterclockwise rotation, and then clockwise rotation. So what is that supposed to mean? I don't know.
I don't know.
CR compared to C? It doesn't matter. They're both going to cut in toward the pilot, okay? Looks like the nut is already installed on the prop adapter. So we just have to figure out a way to hold this. Now you'll notice, guys, look at this. It's kind of tight to get your fingers in there. You notice what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. So we're going to probably have to get a nut driver for this too, if we want to make this easy. Okay, so we're going to slide. This is going to be so sweet looking. I'm really excited to see this together. Okay. Guys, when I decided to buy this model, okay, which, yes, there's been a lot of really good models come out, and I've been reviewing a lot of maybe economical models, would be the nice way of saying it. Part of the reason we're doing that is because of Christmas. There's so many people that need to buy stuff for their kids, and I figured it'd be about the best time you can do that. But also, secondly, there's some of these cheap models I've been reviewing are pretty awesome, actually, and I didn't really expect them to be this awesome. There's been a couple that have been, but generally speaking, they've all turned out pretty good. Horizon needs to basically have their game up. Okay, so I'm using this. I'm holding on to the backer plate, if you want to call it that, and I'm just going to break this free because this one's on pretty tight. Oh, I'm going backward. I got to go the other way.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a counter-rotating prop.
Well, and sometimes your spouse might appreciate if you have like a smaller plane that doesn't take up like half your kitchen.
Yeah, the people on this channel aren't really doing that decision-making process.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, I would say that having a smaller plane, I love UMX planes, and you guys should know by now. So if people come out with good UMX planes and ultra micro planes and micro planes and small planes, I love them. But bigger planes do generally fly a little bit better. They fly more like real. Oh, it's so awkward to put a screw on backward. It's so counterintuitive. Do you see how many times I dropped that before I could remember? My brain was like, no, I cannot compute. Okay, so I'm gonna hold the prop now, and I'm gonna try to get this right. I'm gonna reverse. See how I'm going backward? I'm gonna hold as many props as I can as I turn. Whoo! Got it nice and tight. Okay. Oh, that's so cool. I'm so excited to see that thing go. Got our Christmas colors going here. To be honest with you, the whole color scheme is really nice too, because then you won't, like when you go to order it, you're gonna know what you get when you get it in the mail. Oh, that looks so good. I'm so excited. I love the stripes. I really, really, really am disappointed that they're not printed on the back too. But at the same time, you know, you can only get so much out of these planes, and it would cost the manufacturing, the cost of manufacturing would go up a lot. So when the cost of manufacturing goes up, that means that we pay for it. And let's just not beat around the bush. I can't open this bag. I need help.
Do you need help?
Jeez, what is going on with this little plastic bag? Let me see if I can get it. I haven't been defeated by a plastic bag in a long time. There we go, got it. So these are the two screws. These must be slightly different screws from the rest of them. These are machine style screws. So if you see, they've got a flat head and the finer threads. So they are Phillips, which, to be honest with you, it's kind of like, really, Phillips? That's strange. I don't know if these are gonna both be the same, or if there's like one that's regular thread and one's reverse thread. It would appear that they're both the same threading. So that's not really a big surprise. Now these are different too. So just be, actually no, they're the same. I didn't think they were gonna be the same, but they are the same. They probably cheaped out on that because the manual leads you to believe that they're gonna be different. And probably early in the manufacturing process, they probably did have a nicer saddle cut out for the props. And they probably realized that, hey, you know, that feature is going to cost us like $10. So let's eliminate that feature so that we can offer the plane at a lower price point and get a bigger market share. Okay, interestingly enough, I can't. That's not the one. It's stuck in there.
Oh.
So I'm going to see if I can get this other one to go, and then we'll go off camera and we'll try to figure that out. What the heck? That's very weird, guys. Oh, wow. I'm just having to thread it through there. So I'm going to tighten this first so that it bites the plastic, okay? And that's going to open up the hole. I don't know why they would do that. They must have changed their hardware also at some point. Okay, so we're going to get this tightened. Feels like it's going okay. Just a lot of threads, not a big surprise. Do not use Loctite on this, guys. You're probably thinking to yourself, why not use Loctite? Loctite, the solvent that suspends Loctite, that makes it so that it can flow out of the tube, that stuff eats plastic, okay? You can do whatever you want, it's your model, but I'm telling you, if you want to make this thing thread lockered, just use CA or something. Do not use thread locker. You'll ruin it. I guarantee your spinner's gonna break off. So, because it's gonna get brittle and it'll be fine, and then all of a sudden you'll like tap it with your finger and it'll break in half. I only know from experience. Okay. You may have noticed I have a lot of airplanes too.
You do?
Yes. Okay guys, so this is going on just fine, regular righty-tighty, lefty-loosey sort of stuff. It's not like it's a reverse thread or anything like that, since this had the reverse thread on the nut. Oh, that is so gorgeous. I love the way that looks. Doesn't it look so cool? All right, cool. So we got that done. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the lights on this plane are gorgeous. And I only noticed it in passing. I think we can go ahead and work on the elevator horizontal stabilizer. Let's check what the manual says. It's probably just going to skip around again, and that's going to drive me crazy. No, look, horizontal tail install. Slide it through. Thread the 4 screws on the underside of the tail as shown. Okay, so it looks like they got 1, 2, and then there would be 4. So they must only be showing half of it. 1 bag of screws. Thank you, Horizon. That was awesome. Got this linkage that's sticking up, so that's pretty evident. It's going to have to slide in from this side. If you try to slide it from the wrong side, there's usually some feedback that goes with that. Okay, so I've got the holes lined up. This is painted, by the way, not just blue plastic. So it's painted. When they paint the fuse, that's a glued in piece of plastic, it looks like. I'm not sure what to think about that yet. I think it's probably going to be a good thing because the match is exact.
Yeah, it looks nice.
See what I'm talking about? Yeah, it looks nice, except that it's not supposed to be blue there. It's supposed to be white.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm talking about, camera crew?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look bad. It looks like, why isn't that white, by the way? Am I crazy? Or should that be white? I mean, this is a pretty awesome looking plane, if you ask me. I can definitely put up with a change light. I mean, that's not a big deal. To have to mask that off might cost a lot, and I like the way it looks still. My only issue with a painted surface like that is that painted surfaces get scratched up easily.
That is true.
And, you know, like your spinner and your cowling, those are not painted surfaces. And so they're not going to have that same wear tendency. Okay. And then like this simulated bladder, that is so cool. I love that black. I've added that to so many different scale planes because those air bladders are on a lot of different types of planes. And camera crew, what does the air bladder do?
It breaks the ice off the front.
That's right. When the ice gets built up on the wingtip at high altitude flying, usually, then they can run, and sometimes they just run heaters too.
See, I listen sometimes.
Okay, so we're going to get this tightened down, and then we're going to go ahead and set up the linkage. The rudder's already set up for us, which is nice. Everything feels solid. So then the next step is, of course, to attach this linkage. They're recommending going into the outside hole from this picture. I don't know if I'm going to go into the outside hole, if we're going to the inside hole or what. I'm probably going to go to the middle hole to begin with. I don't usually like... Okay, some of you guys want the plane to be tame. I can use Expo to tame this thing. But there is a certain amount of truth to the fact that if you have less output and you get what you need out of it, then you're going to have a more tame and you're going to have better precision and resolution on the throw from your servo. So your servo is going to be moving. It's going to have more room to give you that precision control that you want. If you go all the way to the inside hole, you're going to have more output, but it's going to be more abrupt and it's going to be more right now. So you may not want that. I'm going to go to the middle hole. We'll see how it feels. I do like this clevis style, by the way. Very solid, very easy to use, but they do not give you any sort of retention on there. I don't like that. You see what I'm talking about, camera crew? No retention. So there's no O-ring or gas line or anything like that. In fact, on any of them. These are some of the best adjustments you can get because when you want to make an adjustment for your trim, your mechanical adjustment is like a 30-second thing. You land, you take this thing off, you unscrew it 2 turns, you click it back in, you take off, you do your thing, you come back, you land, you make your adjustments, you're done. Unlike the timber, which requires an entire video. Oh man, that is so gorgeous. I love the size, I love the feel, it feels solid, it looks good. The scale lines are exactly spot on. And I don't even see the lights yet. The only thing I don't like about this plane is right there. This wheel is probably about, I would say 25% bigger than it should be, maybe 50%. It's kind of a little bit cartoony looking. Same problem I had with the twin downstairs. So that being said, I don't even think we're gonna build the floats. The floats are so stinking simple. If you guys really wanna see me build the floats, put it in the link below, or excuse me, don't put it in the link below, put it in the comments below. Let me know that you want to see me build the floats, which will probably be like a 6 or 7 hour video. And then we'll do that for you. But let's just give them a quick review of what the parts look like. Oh, I almost forgot these. Horizon, I just want to also reprimand you a little bit because the instructions are not clear on this, okay? First of all, your instructions suggest, okay. I'm surprised all these problems with instructions today. It's very strange, very uncommon. See how these, does that not look to you like it's going in like this?
Yeah.
Okay, why would they have us put them in like that and then clip in from the bottom? Why wouldn't you have them clip in from the top? I mean, I understand some people fly upside down a lot. Secondly, now let's compare that to reality. In reality, they have a pocket here to receive the top portion. I think they drew it backward because look, this is gonna catch on the top. It is clearly wrong in the manual. So, I don't know, that looks pretty right to me. So, Horizon, you really need to get this. This manual is bad. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? We tipped the scales with those stupid things. That's so irritating. Otherwise, and by the way, those things are gorgeous and I love the way they look. So, good job with that, Horizon. I'm super tempted to switch this wheel out so that it doesn't look hokey. Because it's such a beautiful plane. Now let's look at the manual. We have not marked the center of gravity yet. That's very important, very critical. This right here, I can forgive every other mistake in the manual, like forgetting half of the assembly instructions. I can forgive that because this exists. I would say you don't know, but you guys have probably seen my other videos. How many of the Chinese manuals we get, they don't even include a CG. It's like, oh, CG, what's that? I don't know what it is. It's probably the most critical flight performance issue on any plane that you'll ever fly. Okay, 45 millimeters back from the leading edge. I have an ultra-fine Sharpie here. I've got the cap off. The leading edge is not including this little area here. You want to go to the flat part of the wing, 45 millimeters back. Oops, I probably should start from 0, huh? So I'm going to go to 45. 45? So this is centimeters. So 4.5 centimeters would put us, for symmetry's sake, I'm going to, 4.5 is right here, okay? And then over here, I'm going to go to 4.5. Trying to be really careful to get this just so. Oh, it didn't mark, dang it. So here's 4.5. Okay, so now, you'll notice something about the way I mark that. I marked it on the top of the plane. Now, why would you mark it at the top of the plane, Brian? That's because, wow, look at that. Without the battery, this thing is even close. It's like falling out of my hands.
Yeah.
It's almost like a jet. So, first thing I'm gonna do is to stick the battery in there. So there's no sense in having the battery out for this part. Camera crew, you wanna come around here? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this strap. Oh, come on, Horizon, look how short this is. That's gonna be a Bearcat to work with. Here, come on, really? Seriously? That needs to be double as long. Okay, now look at my next little issue I'm gonna work through. This is not Horizon's fault at all. This is just a nuance in the battery size. Okay, so we drop that down. Are we gonna reach the cables? Oh yeah, we'll be able to reach. we'll be able to easily plug that and unplug that while we're getting ready to do our flying. Okay, oh yeah, that'll be no problem at all. But this short strap is gonna be a pain in the butt. Okay, so let's just put that in there. Now we can do our assignment of safe select here. Safe select so we can turn it on and off. We'll do that here in mere moments. I don't like the way that marks, so let's get a piece of paper and we'll show the people at home how to do this. So I took and marked 4.5 centimeters or 45 millimeters back. Now all I have to do is just line up the straight edge here, okay? So now the trouble with doing it this way is a little bit of cheating involved, because look what happens is that when you measure this from the front edge of that wing, you see how much of a deviation there is? Because of the change in the shape, it's gonna change how far back that goes, okay? So you have to take it with a grain of salt, but at least you get consistency, okay? So now the airfoil on the bottom doesn't exist to the same extent. So what we're gonna do is we'll flip this over. I'm just gonna get these wires in here so it's easy. We'll go ahead and move the manual and we can lay this back down on its back. Okay, so that's back down on its back. Now we can take this and we can go in here and see if there's a nice little marking spot. Okay, so I'm just gonna hold that and look where we are. I would say we're close enough to the edge of that we could call that the center of gravity. It is nice and convenient to be able to do that. See what I'm doing, folks? You see what I'm talking about? That little edge of the strip. So I'm actually just gonna write CG. I'm just gonna now transpose my mark to right here on there, and then transpose my mark to here. Okay, oh, come on, of course you would stop marking right now. Probably because I'm marking plastic or something like that. So now that we have that mark on there, the easiest way I found to do this is to just put a drip of CA. Okay, so I think we'll probably just do that again. So we'll pause it and we'll do that right now. All right, so we just have run-of-the-mill CA that's not foam safe. It doesn't matter because it's going onto this like decal-ish thing. So what I'm gonna do is I need to kind of keep the plane level. And I'm just showing you how I've done this. It doesn't have to be this way. It's not anything magical about this, but I'm just making a little drip such that I can feel it with my fingertip very easily, okay? So I'm just gonna do one touch of CA kicker on top, and then I'm gonna go again with another drip of CA right there, okay? That's gonna be close enough to get us a feel when we need to test for the center of gravity. So I'm just letting this sit for a second. It usually takes just a couple of seconds. Now, if you want to come over and watch from the other side, you can. So I usually start with just the one drip, and I actually got a lot of kicker on it that last time. So I was going to see if I could do it a little bit less. It's almost hard to see probably on camera. Okay, so we're just letting that work. And then I want to come in here and just make sure you don't get any air bubbles for your drip, because then your drip's going to be more or less invalidated. Okay, so we just set that down right on top of the kicker. And then if you look, you can see that there's a pretty distinguishable bump on both sides. So we're going to let that set up for just a second, and we'll come right back.
Okay.
All right, guys, so we let the CA set up and we dried up a little bit of residual kicker, and do that because it'll actually release lube from decals. Okay, so you'll notice we're just a little bit nose attitude down. We're plus or minus 5 millimeters. So 5 millimeters is probably about half the size of your finger, the pad of your finger. So you can have a pretty big deviation from that and still be in compliance. So I would say, if you're new to flying especially, fly it with a little bit nose heavy. You don't want it to be tail heavy. So in order to do that, if you need to make an adjustment, of course, you're going to take and just slide your battery back or slide your battery forward. And I'm pretty much almost all the way forward. So we'll just go back just a hair. And just the only reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to put in a battery alarm as well. And so this little battery alarm is not going to throw us for a loop. And you can slide that back or forth because it's on the balance charge lead. It's pretty close. Maybe just a hair more. So we moved it back just a little bit further, and we're almost just spot on. I would say that that's just about perfect, okay? So let's show the people where we put this. Again, this is a 3000 milliamp, 30 through 40C, and it looks like I've got not quite enough room for that. I'm trying to think of a good rational size. Looks like about the connector back, maybe just a little bit more. And these variances, I mean, guys, between two of these batteries from the same exact, I got 4 of them. I bet they're gonna all be within, you know, a small difference. I would say it's about 5/8 of an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch back from the front bulkhead, if you will, or where the bulkhead starts to go up and around. Because it actually goes up and then it opens up into a cavity. So that being understood, let's go ahead and plug this in and simulate what we're gonna do for regular operation. So we've got that plugged in. 3 cells are all at 12.6, so whatever, that's good enough. So we're gonna drop that back. I'm gonna let them see inside of here, please. So you see what I'm doing? I'm just turning this sideways. Why do I do that? Because I don't want that to change its position while we're flying. Not because I'm worried about anything. Okay, now the second thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn back on my radio. Remember, we never assign safe select, okay? Throttle cuts on. Twin Otter 1.2 meter. I did that off camera because it's really boring to watch me scroll in a name. So once that's on, then we can go ahead and plug in the airplane. Oh, yes. That is so gorgeous. Now look what I did, guys. See this? That AS3X dance is a little bit different than what I'm used to seeing. See what I did there? I sandwich it into a tight point. And that way it doesn't move as well. So now your CG is gonna be right where you left it, okay? So we're very good there. So now obviously we're gonna test our control surfaces right now before we get any further. I'm gonna put this like that in case they would try to go forward. It'll just chop holes in my wife's Afghan so she can be upset with me. Elevator up, elevator down, rudder left, rudder right, aileron roll to the left, aileron roll to the right, flaps down. Here, I'll even put it in the monitor mode. Flaps down, and you can see that the elevator is just ever so slightly correcting. Now, those flaps don't look very big. We'll see if they work well. If they don't work well, I'll make them bigger. Or I'll go in here to servo setup, and I'll go to the travel on flaps, run it to the middle. Let's see if we can get any more play out of them. I kind of doubt it. Hey, look at that. Yeah. You can overdrive into about 150. Wow. Now watch, they're going to go above center. Okay, so I want to change that to just 100. Now, one warning on digital servos. I've had this happen and I've got burned. If you run a digital servo, okay, so imagine this is 0. This is minus 100 and then this is plus 100. So 150, what happens is you get into this wonky range where it almost overflows into the next range of the pulse width modulation. I've had it happen before and the servos will start walking. It's very weird. So what I'm gonna do is instead of setting it to minus 150 like this, I'm gonna set it to like minus 146. Actually, I'm gonna leave it at 0 for now, and we'll know that for going forward. So we can overdrive the servo on the flaps and get a little bit more deflection out of them if we wanna slow the plane down. Now the other thing we could do is we could split off the ailerons and set them as flaperons, and we could do crow on this. And then of course the other awesome thing we could do is we'd have quite a bit of work involved in it, but we could set up differential thrust. So throttle cut is off. Let's see if this works. Oh, yes. Holy crappers, that's powerful. Look. Wow. Watch it. I bet that's got a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay, show them the plan.
Show them.
Show them the plan. That is pretty amazing, guys. It's got some power. I'm excited to see this thing fly. Okay, so now let's talk about safe. Throttle cuts on. Tested. I have to bring this up before I forget. Look at how awesome that beacon is. That is really sweet. Super smooth install. Only thing I don't like about it is that the light doesn't come out to the sides very good. It just goes mostly up because of the directionality of this LED. So one thing you can do on that is you can put a drip or two of CA and it will actually diffuse that light very effectively. And it'll still look really nice. So, all the control axes are working correct. Is safe on? The easiest way to tell. Roll it, safe is on. How do you know? Go to even. It's gonna try to find level. Now watch the elevator. When I go up, it's trying to find level. When I go down like this, it's trying to find level. Okay? So that is full safe. It's gonna automatically try to level the aircraft when the sticks are neutral. Okay? So what I wanna do is I wanna figure out what control axis I need to move to reassign that. So let's get the instruction manual so you guys can see where to find this. I get questions about this all the time, but people also tell me all the time that they're really glad I do this because they couldn't have figured it out from the instructions. So what you do is you hold both sticks in like this, and then you wiggle the stick you want to assign to say select. In my case, it's going to be this. But this is critical. You have to hear me. You have to have something going on with this. It can't just be a disabled channel. It actually has to receive an input that changes. So how do you know if it's going to change? Walk over to your monitor. Flip the switch you want to work. Nothing has changed, correct?
Correct.
That means nothing is assigned to switch A, which means we have to assign something to switch A in order for switch A to be used to designate safe select. So, throttle cuts on. Proper way to do this would be to de-energize the plane. We're going to do it the lazy way and see if you guys can learn from my mistake. Yes. Okay, so nothing's happened. It should go into a fail-safe mode. Okay, so now I have to go into channel assign, and you see how it says gear flap and auxiliary 1 flap, okay? So the gear channel is what we want to play with, I believe. Gear is set to B, okay? So auxiliary 1. See, auxiliary 1 is inhibited. I need to figure out how to uninhibit that. Well, we could also just use channel 7 too. So I'll just turn this on to channel A. Then we can go back into this, and I really don't care because it doesn't matter because it just needs to be a higher channel. Okay, so now watch. Nothing happens. We go to monitor mode. See, auxiliary 2. So that's what we want to control safe select in our case. So then all we have to do is throttle cuts on, make sure things are working, which they are, then sticks in, wait for the dance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You see the dance? Now, look, elevator, rudder, ailerons, flaps, flaps with the down correction on the elevator, progressive as expected. Now, let's check safe. First, let's check throttle cut because we have control of the plane. We want to keep it. Okay, throttle's working as expected. Throttle cut's on, and now the throttle's not working, which is what we want. Now we can flip it over. You'll notice that safe is on. Trying to level the plane. Now safe's off. AS3X is still active. You can see when I lift the wing, it tries to correct, but it's not trying to bring the plane level. It's just trying to resist the input. That's what AS3X does. So we are fully set, except I don't want this switch back. I want that switch forward, and I want safe to be on when I have the switch back. So let's show you how to switch that. So within your regular servo setup, you're going to figure out which switch is being controlled. Throttle cut is on. See this? That's auxiliary 2. So just go to auxiliary 2. Well, let's go from travel to reverse. We'll just switch the output. Now we go back. Now, safe should be on when I have that pulled back. And what do you see? Safe is on. Now, my neutral position, this is like my normal getting ready to fly position. Safe is off. When I want safe, I flip it on, and it's on. So that should show you all you need to know about turning on safe. Also, word of warning, my landing gear, these nuts were not tight. I just tightened them. I don't know why they weren't, but they weren't. So luckily I caught it. That's the sort of thing you don't think about when you're putting a plane together, especially from Horizon. Pretty uncommon to have problems with that. Now another thing I learned from the last twin I got from Horizon, I had all sorts of grief from mechanical trims, and I don't even know how I got into such trouble with it, because like I said, I historically don't have problems like that. Oh, let's check the steerable nose. Yep, it's working correctly. Yep, correctly. So I want to see flat, flat, and flat. Flat, flat, and flat at neutral. And then this should be generally straight, but it's got a little bit of a pitch down tendency. If you want to show them like really square here, you'll notice the elevator is going down just a hair, okay? And then show them from up here. Look how straight that. Guys, that's the way a Horizon Hobby plane should come out of the box. Perfect alignment or near perfect alignment. The only one that isn't perfect is the one I put on. So how do we fix that? I want to start neutral. That means I'm going to have to take this control arm, okay? It's very simple. Well, actually, it'll work really good if we do this. So, because you want to make sure it stays soft for this, because otherwise it's going to try to bring the plane right. So I'm going to find this. I need to bring this down just a hair from where I'm standing. So I'm going to pop this off. And if you recall, I chose to do this a little bit different than stock, so that might be why the alignment's not perfect. That's going to pull it in. That's going to bring it out. So I'll go like 2 or 3 turns. Then stick that through. Show them down the side of that now. See how perfect that looks? It's just like a perfect alignment from the front. All those control axes are set. Man, I can't wait to see this thing fly. It is going to be gorgeous. And we are going to probably be starting with the flight video, so you may have already seen it and you may already know why this plane is a keeper. Notwithstanding all the stupid little problems we had with the instructions, which of all the things you wouldn't expect to have problems on a Horizon product, that's exactly it. So all other things considered, it looks like it's going to be a really good plane. So I cannot wait to share this with you. Guys, come back for more. You know where to find it, right here on Brian Phillips RC. And there'll be more like this if I can just win the lotto. Okay, YouTube, we forgot to set up the Expo, so we're going to show you that real quick. So from the regular mode, make sure you got your airplane model picked. Go to dual rates and Expos. I'm going to make my assignments the way I always do. I set it to switch F for all 3 of my control axes. I do that all at once because it's easier to do it at once. Okay, so now for my lowest setting, I set it to like 10, then I set it to 20, and then I set it to 30, and I put the dual rates down to like 90, okay? And I do that for all 3 control axes. So this one's gonna be 30 because I'm in the top setting, the highest level of Expo, with a little bit of a kick down on the output. And so what this does for me is it gives me the ability to in flight make a quick adjustment to all 3 axes, and then once I'm done with the Maiden, I will go through and make my fine-tune adjustments, and whatever I make my adjustment to, my middle setting is the setting I run it on. So say I like it to be a little bit more Expo on one of the axes, then I just go make that change. And then I make that the middle, and I do half for this top setting, and I do double for the bottom setting. And that way I can make a quick on-the-fly adjustment. So that's how you do the Expo, and hope you guys enjoyed the video. So YouTube, after our initial flight, the crazy windy Maiden, I realized that I didn't have any rudder to aileron mix, and I want to do that, and so I did, and then I tested it off camera, and it really did help. So I'll show you how to do it if you don't know how to do it already. So you'll click in and you'll scroll down to mixing, and then you'll go to aileron to rudder mix. I already have mine on to 25%, so the way it'll come by default will be like this. Okay, so I'm just going to turn that up to 25% positive, and then I'm going to switch this to on. You can also set that to a switch. So like, let's say you want to have more aileron to rudder mix when you have flaps off, or you want to have the aileron to rudder mix off when the flaps are on, so that when you do have to do a correction on your ailerons, you're not going to try to yaw the plane too. So let's go ahead and show you how to test it. You have it set up right. So obviously we have this thing running. The throttle cut is on, it's been tested. So we've got this mixed to 25%. So when I give rudder, it's just rudder. When I give ailerons, it also moves the rudder just a little bit. And so I'd be rolling the plane like this, and I'd be yawing it, which is going to coordinate a turn. Same thing here. So some people don't like that. I fly with both sticks most of the time. So when I roll, I give it a little bit anyway. When I roll, I give it a little bit anyway. So just a really quick tip. If you didn't already know how to do that, I'm assuming you're kind of a newbie, but it's something I do on most of my aircraft. I like the way that a coordinated turn looks, and it does take away one little thing you've got to think about. Of course, I will add a little bit in extra. And just so you know, let's say we have the rudder like this, you'll notice it still moves more, okay? So just with my rudder stuck in whatever position I got it, it's gonna add just a little extra output, 25% in this case. So if you have your rudder all the way over and you go to move it, see, nothing happens. That's because there's no more throw to give. And if you decide you want to do that and you have the proper digital servos, then what you would have to do is you'd have to go into servo setup, and you would have to open up the range on the rudder higher. So in this case, 125. So now I move the stick over, watch what happens. Nothing. That's because we don't have enough extra play. So I'm going to set that back to 100% play. So that's how you do it, guys. Hope the video was helpful to you. This plane is a real keeper. I love the size, the 1.2 meter size class. And we have all this room out here, and I still love the 1.2 meter size class. Because look how easy it is to get through a doorway. The batteries are so much more inexpensive. There's just a lot of reasons why this class is a good size. So without further ado, you need to just go buy one, because it is a really good flying plane and very gorgeous. I hope that we've had an opportunity to film another awesome Maiden for you guys, but Mother Nature's in charge of that. Thanks for watching, guys. Come back for more. Okay, guys, so we're gonna come back from, I think we just got done with the Expo and the rudder mix. I wanna show you how to adjust the nose gear. Many of you have already probably figured it out, but just so that there's no ambiguity, yours may not come going straight down the tarmac, which is exactly what mine did. It veered pretty bad to one side or the other. I can't even remember what side it was. It was something that was able to fix pretty easy. So when you pull that, you still have to remember to grab down here and pop these things out as you lift. Otherwise, you're gonna scratch up your plane really bad, okay? Okay, so once you pull them out, you can put them to the side. Then you'll notice that the wing is lifted. That's probably the more important tip I'm giving you right now. Also, doing it when you've got a battery in there is helpful because it keeps the nose down. So you see this screwdriver here? That screw is the set screw that runs the linkage that goes up to your nose gear, okay? So, and then also keep in mind, to be honest with you, it would have been nice if there would have been a hole drilled here so that you could get to that while the wing was assembled. So some of you guys might need to do that. If you run off a grass strip, there's gonna be some wear and tear, and that thing is gonna wanna come loose, and these are gonna wanna wiggle free. So you may wanna do that. And then secondly, when you get ready to put your floats on, you can put your linkage here. After you take out, this set screw holds on to the wheel. It does not hold on to this. That's fixed, okay? So you're not going to be able to release that and adjust this from outside. You still have to adjust your floats rudder. Inside there, there might actually be a U on it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I wanted to show you how to make that trim adjustment because it's one of the only trim adjustments. Every other trim adjustment on this plane is just these little clevis locks
And you can adjust the clevises to get your mechanical trims, if needed, done. So that's all for now. YouTube, it's been a long time coming. We got a windy Maiden for you, and we are going to fly this twin Otter today. On the landing gear, it comes with included floats. Not sure if we're going to do floats. It depends on if we get snow or not, and if I decide to take it to a pond. But one way or another, we got this all set up. The unboxing, assembly, and radio setup will follow. We're going to start with the Maiden like we've been doing on the Horizon products, and so hopefully you love it. And if we have a bad time with the wind, then we're going to do another Maiden tomorrow. The wind's supposed to be a little bit better. So without further ado, we got the takeoff flaps dialed in. Elevators go in the right direction. Rudders go in the right direction. Steerable nose to go in the right direction. Ailerons go in the right direction, except the planes go in the wrong direction. That is awesome. I did that. I was trying to do that real scale-like. You know, like that. Full landing flaps. Into the power. Oh, I love those props. They're so beautiful. Step back, please. 3 steps. Thank you. Stop there. Pretty fast with the wind. Okay, no takeoff flaps. Just coming in against the wind. Let's call it 15 miles an hour. The AS3X is doing a nice job, but it's just really windy. Man, those lights are gorgeous. It's getting kind of kicked around like a rag doll right now, though. We're gonna go between us and the house here. Really fast.
Looks really cool.
Full landing flaps coming. You need to go back where you were, please. It's pretty windy out there, guys. I don't know if you can tell, but the plane's handling it okay. It's just really turbulent right now. Woo-hoo-hoo! That was an unplanned touch and go. Man, look at that thing getting kicked around. I mean, it's holding its own in terms of flying. That's fast. Full landing flaps. I was trying to bring it in. Of course, it'll fly upside down. I know some of you are thinking, why would you go upside down with that plane? It's definitely very capable. Oh, there was a crazy gust right at the tail end of that maneuver. Okay, let's try safe. Okay, safe is on. 50% throttle. Let's try safe landing. Safe is really keeping it dialed in. I've only had to give just a little teeny bit of aileron input. That is incredible. I am really impressed with the safe on that. Now let's see if the wind will push it back to us. I kind of doubt it will. Okay, take off flaps. Take off flaps. Out of the flaps.
Man, that mix for the flaps, I thought it was gonna be crazy. 35% and 25%. And it didn't make a problem at all. I thought it was gonna be like crazy amounts of down nose. Man, it is light on its feet. Look at that, guys. Just holding the elevator. See the nose wheel bouncing? That's so awesome. Okay, under the lines. Into the sun. Haven't heard any voltage alarm peeps yet. Okay, full landing flaps. The wind is basically going down the runway. That's about where it's coming from, so it's pretty close. I got 1 minute left on the flight timer. There's your pseudo stall takeoff. I didn't do the landing flaps for that takeoff. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. It is really very easy to fly. I'm surprised. I've been at my middle setting for Expo that whole time, and it's just done really well. The one safe landing. Let's try a safe takeoff. I've got 27 seconds left on the timer. They're safe. Just to show you, about half throttle, just because it's crazy wind. Okay, I'm going to bring it around here, just coordinating the turn a little bit. Safe is on. Okay, out of safe so I can make this tight turn. I've got my timer about to go off and we can check voltages. There's my alarm. Full landing flaps. Oh no! Ground handling is very good. Nice tight turning radiuses. No differential thrust on this. Wait! Is that just a fluke? Did you notice that, or was that just in my head?
No, I saw it.
I don't think it's got differential thrust. I think it was just pure luck.
Wind.
It was just the wind keeping it going. Which, by the way, look at that thing. Look at those blades. That looks so good.
It's pretty cool.
All right, let's check the voltage real quick. Auto cuts on and test it. Take off flaps, will collapse. One thing I can say about this plane, it is very easy to handle. It is very stout. It feels strong. In this crazy environment, I didn't feel like it was going to break apart or rip any of the wings off. We're at 3.9 on, okay, so we're at 3.83, 3.86, and 3.92. So we'll probably start getting a little bit of sag here soon. So let's see about doing another couple of circuits, and we'll see what we can get out of it. Nice scale takeoff for you guys. 50% throttle, getting into the power there. We're gonna go this way this time. Oh no! Looks like the aviation mechanic decided to steal it again. There he goes, doing crazy stuff. I hope he'll bring it back. Wait, are you gonna bring it back? No, you're not? Oh shoot. Whoa! Jeez, that thing tips on like a banshee. Did you see that, Megan?
Mm-hmm.
Camera crew. I think it's going to perform even better when it's not like 4,000 mile an hour wind. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. It'd probably do decent on grass. I just don't want to put it on grass yet because it's juicy today. It's a little bit warmer than it's been. So everything is just crazy wet. Okay, coming into final. Keeping the throttle, guys. This thing does not idle. It lands. That's what it does. Oh, let's taxi this. Oh, love the back taxi. That is awesome. I just love the way it looks. The lights look gorgeous. The wind condition. Oh, look at that anti-crash beacon on the top of the tail. It's just super gorgeous. This one almost needs to taxi see all the way back to the stairs. It's just so stinking gorgeous. The only thing I didn't put into this radio setup that I wish I would have done is an aileron to rudder mix. I mean, I'm doing it in my brain, but I'm not doing it automatically with my DX18. Out of the flaps here finally. And here we go. We're gonna get out of the wind here. Throttle cuts on. Okay, so even with those additional circuits, we got about 3 minutes and 26 seconds past. A lot of that was taxiing. We did have some downtime where we were on the ground just talking. But I would say we're at 3.87 on the last cell, 3.8 on the first cell, and 3.8 on the second cell. So pretty reasonable amount of power left. I mean, you could go longer, and if it wasn't like go 100% throttle to keep it in the air, I guarantee you'd get a lot longer flight. So I think what we're probably gonna do is you guys might actually be seeing this at the end of the video now. We're gonna try for a really calm flight tomorrow so that the Maiden is a little bit more beautiful, because I feel like this thing got shortchanged by the crazy wind. But I don't want to not share it with you because it's the true Maiden flight. It's the first time I've flown it. It flies really solid. I mean, solid flying plane. Carbon Z-Cub, solid. I don't know. It's pretty good. I like flying the Carbon Z-Cub more, but it's like more than twice as much money. And it's huge. So this plane is awesome. And by the way, taking the wing off can be done. Even with these little struts in place, it's just really awkward. And don't forget, because you're going to scratch the crap out of the side of this plane if you go to take the wing off. Really like the way the lights look. If we get a lull and it's just twilight, I'll try to get another flight for you, but I can't promise because it's been crazy windy, guys. And if our wind conditions are horrible and this is the first video you're seeing, the first flight you're seeing, then that means you probably won't get another one at the end. But guys, thanks for watching. More coming.